Notes for adding and subtracting rational numbers. First thing that we want to keep in mind is that we do have a rule. Whenever you add or subtract fractions, you must find a common denominator. Do not work with improper fractions when adding and subtracting. You have to find a common denominator. So in this example, the first thing I want to do is kiss the problem. I don't want to have all the double signs. I also recognize that I need a common denominator. So I look at my denominators, 2, 5, and 3. And I think about the first number that all three of those will divide nicely. That number is 30. So I'm going to rewrite the problem. I'm going to say 5 and something over 30 minus 1 and something over 30. And notice that I have this minus a negative here. Minus a negative can be simplified into a big old positive. So I'll say plus 2 and something over 30. Now I have to transform all my numerators to reflect that change in the denominator. How I do that is simply ask myself, 2 goes into 30 how many times? 2 goes into 30 15 times. So 15 times 1 is 15. This is an equivalent fraction then. In a similar way, 5 goes into 30 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. 3 goes into 30 10 times. 10 times 2 is 20. Now as an added step, what I do is I break the problem into two parts. I think of the whole numbers and I think of the fractions. So I could list this as 5 take away 1 plus 2. And then I'll make this line here. And then I want to consider my fraction. All my fractions have that common denominator of 30, so I write this here. And then I'm going to bring all the numerators over, being sure to put a sign on each fraction. The first fraction was 15, first numerator. In the second mixed number, the fraction matches the whole number. So this too is negative. In other words, you have negative 1 and 24/30. That 24/30 is negative. And finally, where I have the 2 and 20/30, that fraction is positive because the 2 was positive. So I'll write it just like that. And now it's a matter of just doing two addition problems. I ask myself, 5 minus 1 is what? 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So I get this whole number of 6. And I move over to the numerators in my fraction. I'm guaranteed that the denominator is 30. I just have to simplify the numerator, unless this reduces. But we'll talk about that later. 15 take away 9, or excuse me, 15 take away 24 is 9. 9 plus 20, negative 9 plus 20 is 11. And so we have 6 and 11/30. So when I was looking up here, I actually could have done this in a different way. I could have said negative 24 plus 20 is negative 4. And then the negative 4 and 15 would have gave me 11. You do have to pay attention to those signs. Now notice when I finish that my whole number and my fraction are both positive. This is an appropriate answer to have 6 and 11/30 as a mixed number. 11/30 does not reduce, so I know that I'm done. There's example 1 for adding and subtracting fractions.